This was sung, Ramakrishna would have this sung to him by Vivekananda. But I think of it as being Baba at the East-West gathering. In wisdom's firmament, the moon of love is rising full, and love's flood tide in surging waves is flowing everywhere, O Lord, how full of bliss thou art. Victory unto thee, victory unto thee, victory unto thee. On every side shine devotees, like stars around the moon. Their friend the Lord, all merciful, joyously plays with them. Behold, the gates of paradise today are open wide. Victory unto thee, victory unto thee, victory unto thee. Upon the sea of the world unfolds the lotus of the new day, and there the Lord sits enshrined in blissful majesty. See how the bees are mad with joy, sipping the nectar there. Victory unto thee, victory unto thee, victory unto thee. What matchless loveliness is Meher, what infinite content pervades the heart when he appears. Oh brothers, I humbly beg you one and all to sing the Master's praise. Victory unto thee, victory unto thee, victory unto thee.
Beautiful.
Oh man, I think this might be a robbery. I think one of us has come to hold us up.
Only disguised.
I have to, we've had one case in Sydney, and so I have to wear the mask on public transport, on the station, on the train.
Yeah.
But I do. Give me all your money. I know you Baba lovers are rolling in it secretly. And I want to get all of that Baba lover money.
We will give it to you digitally.
Do you take cryptocurrency?
Yeah. So, I got a few quotes. Anybody have anything that comes to mind to share? Or
Now, next week, next Sunday, Goer is going to share her story of her father, who's one of the Mandali.
She's here tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm pointing to her, and then she'll say her meeting with Baba, her times with Baba. So,
So we have to show what a friendly environment we are.
yeah, yeah, no, get the critical looks off your face. And hey, so I'm going to read a few quotes. If you have any quotes.
Jeff, you're muted.
How did I get muted? So, this is Saint Teresa of Avila. Baba said a kitty had been Saint Teresa of Avila in the past. 1,000 souls hear his call every second, but most everyone looks into their life's mirror and says, I'm not worthy to leave this sad place. When I first heard his courting song, I too looked at all I had done in my life and said, how can I gaze into his all compassionate eyes? And he told me, I made you, dear, and all I make is perfect. Please come close, for I too desire you. And it's interesting because that's a Rumi. That's Saint Teresa, but Kitty like this. What she experienced with Baba is Baba was more interested in uniting with them than they were in uniting with him, which surprised her. Because most people think, well, there's Jesus or there's Ram or Krishna, and you do the work from your side, and he sits there and receives it. But Baba was very actively trying to unite with them. This is Baba to the Eastern and Western women Mandali. What you have been doing always is thinking of yourself. So now you must not think of yourself, but think of others. This is what is called love. It needs character, poise, and perseverance. This is Winston Churchill. Success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. I'll read one more. Well, let's see. I got a short one. What is real gratitude? This is Attar, who was one of the great Sufi perfect masters. What is real gratitude? To see the rose even in the thorn of experience. What is real gratitude? To see the rose even in the thorn of experience. I see Lanita has her hand raised. Yeah.
Hi, Jay Baba.
Yeah.
I like to read this Mother Teresa of Calcutta, this quote. Ready?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
People are often unreasonable and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people might accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're honest, people might cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you find happiness, people might be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today might be forgotten tomorrow. Do good. Give the world the best you have, and it might never be enough. Give your best anyway. For you see, in the end, it's between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. Mother Teresa of Calcutta.
Well,
I think somebody should sing a song in honor of mothers. So I'm going to sing M is for the million things you gave me. I'm not exactly sure of the melody, so I'm going to do my best, but I want to honor the mothers and Terry and Diane and myself and Sally. And I'm not sure, Lanita is a champion mother. How many? 5? Yeah. 4. Okay. All right. M is for the million things she gave me. O means only that she's growing old. T is for the tears she said to save me. H is for her heart of purest gold. E is for her eyes with love light shining. R means right, and right she'll always be. Put them all together, they spell mother, the world that means the world to me. Oh, there's another verse. Do you want to hear the second verse? I'll give it to you. Oh, I got to go back. Never mind. Forget about the second verse. I don't know how to access it. But anyway, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers here and to my mother, who I didn't really get along with that well. But hey, she gave birth to me and I'm grateful. So, and I'm grateful for my son, who made me a mother.
I'm signing off. Jai Baba to the mothers. Jai Baba to everybody.
Oh, Betty, I forgot to include you.
I'm included.
Okay.
Jai Baba.
Jeff, you're muted.
Getting muted.
Yeah.
Goer, if you would you be up for answering any questions or anything?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If I can.
Yeah. Well, because she was at the East-West gathering with Baba in the 65 as well, but she also grew. Her father was Minu Kuras, one of the earliest of the Mandali from the early 30s, and she's going to speak next Sunday, but you know that it's we may not be able to. I mean, it's so late at night, so we can't go on forever then. But if you have any questions that come to mind, but we don't want to give away her entire story. Her father's meeting with Baba is really something beautiful, and after many years of search, and we won't have her spill the beans on that at this point. But Josh, here's somebody that grew up with Baba as a little girl and all the way up. You usually have some good questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was your father the one who saved Ursula and Mick when they were in the hospital with hepatitis, and Baba told them to go get them and bring them to his house?
Yes, if you mean in Karachi, yes, that was Mick and Ushi stayed with us for quite a while, and then I remember Robert Dreyfus also had come around that same time. But yes, they were with us for quite a while, and it was just great knowing them and hearing their story about how they had come overland to India.
Yeah.
meet Baba. Yes.
They were in the hospital though with hepatitis, right? And they weren't doing well, and they were very, very ill.
I don't remember if that was in Karachi. Was it in Karachi or?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, probably. I was quite young then. Must have been. Let's see. What do you remember? What year that was?
I don't know. Was it in the 60s?
Yeah, it had to be
Yeah.
in the late 60s, I believe, right? Yeah, because they had gone and met Baba. So I'm thinking 67, 68, somewhere there.
And they were crying out to Baba in the hospital because they were really sick. And they
Yes.
maybe were even dying. And so then Baba told your father to go get them.
Yes, yes. My father did a lot for them, yes. And then safely saw them come back to the States, I believe, yes. Yeah, that was a long, long time ago. True.
Josh, did you think of any questions?
Well, the question that I always ask is, what's your most important piece of advice you think to Baba lovers of the future, personally, in your personal opinion?
Beautiful.
To never let go of his Daman. Once you've come into his orbit, that's the absolute best that could ever happen to you, and don't ever let go of that. The more you can remember him every day, to make him your constant companion in whatever you're doing, and the more you try to inculcate that in your life on a day-to-day basis, the easier it will be to remember him when the time comes when you really need him. So even in happy times, when you're, for instance, if I'm playing with my grandchildren, or if I'm watching a beautiful sunset, or whatever it is that brings you happiness, if you remember him at that time, it just comes so naturally then. So whether I'm cooking in my kitchen, or whether I'm driving and say something dashes across the road, oh, Baba is what the first thing that comes out of my mouth is Baba. So it just happens naturally then. So yeah, so just try to think of him.
Now, when you were Josh's age, did you have some difficult times where remembering Baba and all of the kind of moods and thoughts that pass through you? Can you recall your putting yourself back in your college days or whatever?
Yes. Well, let's see. It doesn't happen overnight. So yes, even though I was born in a Baba family and I was surrounded by Baba people and meetings and lots of, with my father for the most part, of course, he was the biggest influence in my life, of course, and where Baba was concerned. But even so, you get wrapped up in your school days and your school life and your friends, and life goes on that way. And sometimes you don't, in those days, of course, you don't remember him as much as I do now, which happens over time. As that's what I'm trying to get at, that but you have to put in the effort. You have to consciously say to yourself that I will try to remember Baba more every day, every time. The Mansari's rule of 5 times a day is a good one. When you wake up first thing in the morning, 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock, dinner time, before meals, and then just before going to bed. If you can remember him just for a few seconds during the day like that, then it naturally becomes a habit. So yes, I mean, there have been times where I've gone through, many difficulties and whatever, and I've had my tussles with him, just as human as the rest of us. So what I'm trying to impress is that no matter how down you go or how far low you feel or whatever life throws at you, that you go across, he never lets go of you. You can sometimes feel that you're far away from him or whatever, but he will never let go of you, and he will never let you fall. He takes you to the very edge sometimes, mind you. He takes you to the very edge, and I've been there, but he never lets you fall. So, yes.
You have that beautiful story, but you might want to save that when you were in line at the post office at one of the
Oh,
lowest moments of your
oh,
life.
yeah. That was one of them, yes, and that was not very long ago either. It was. I'd gone through a very, very difficult period in my life, and I was feeling, you might say, I was feeling lower than a pregnant ant. And I was crying out to him. I was fighting with him. I was, very, very distraught. And I was standing in line at the post office, and somebody was ahead of me at the window, and I just looked up. I was a mess. I was so distraught. I was just not even myself at all. And I happened to look up, and I see the back of this person's shirt, and he's wearing a white shirt, and there's green lettering on the back of his shirt. And I just happened to look up, and I read, "Remember, ... I am always with you." And before it even hits me that what I've read, and I'm like, those are Baba's words. I said, and it just shook me so deeply. And then the person left, and it was my turn. I go up to the window, and I quickly ask the question I had come to ask. And this is a very small post office, mind you. Very few people, whatever. And it must have been less than 15 seconds. I had my question answered, and I moved away, and I was desperate to see who that person was. And I run to the door, and I look out. The parking lot is very small, very few cars. Look this way, look that way. Don't see anybody with a white shirt. And white and green are my favorite colors. So there you go. So if that was not Baba at that point telling me, hey, shaking me, hey, I'm not gone anywhere. I'm right here. So never lose hope. He's always there, always. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the caretakers at the center was in a very despondent state and feeling, like Bob was just killing her, and just driving in DC and so low. And at a certain point, she said, "Okay, Baba, I surrender. I give up. I just turn it over to you." And the car in front of her, there was a van, and it had a sticker that was this band called the Grateful Dead.
Right. Okay.
Well, she finally decided to be grateful, and Baba reflected it there.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, when you surrender, when you come to that point of saying, Baba, I totally, whatever it is I'm going through, I have done my best to try and overcome this, but nothing has worked so far. So now my only option is to leave it in your lap. And when you do that, he completely takes over. And that has happened to me time and again. So in my own personal life.
Yeah.
And then there comes a turning point at that point, and then things start to move in the right direction. So therefore I say, just leave it to him, surrender, and that's the best you can do. So, yeah.
Anita.
Yes, dear.
Go ahead. Do you remember when you saw Baba the first time you saw him?
Yes.
How old are you?
I was almost 8 years old. I was 1 month shy of being 8 years old. That was in 1960.
Do you remember?
Yes, of course, very distinctly. Yes. I'll tell you, see, growing up at home, we used to have Baba's Arti once a month. Every 25th of the month, the Karachi group would gather at our house, and we would have the Arti, and we would say the prayers, and then my father would talk on any subject that was of interest. communications, letters from around the globe that if had to come for Baba's work would be read out and so forth. And so this happened every month, of course. So I grew up with that atmosphere. Our house was like a Baba gallery. Every so many inches of wall space was covered with nothing but Baba photos. We had no other family pictures or nothing. It was just like Baba all around. So that's how I grew up. So when it came time for the East-West gathering was coming up, and I was a 7-year-old child at the time, that, you know, I heard Baba's God and of course knew that. I knew that as naturally as, you know, knowing you are so-and-so or mom or dad or whatever. I just naturally accepted Baba for who he was. But now comes 1962 when we're actually going to see him physically. And that excitement started building up in me as a child. I remember that so vividly. And then we are now in Pune, and we are at the gates of Guru Prasad, the 1st of November, 1962. And the gates open and this flood of humanity rushes into Guru Prasad. And I'm with my mother, I think. I think it has to be my mom, yeah. And so we go to the back of the palace where they had set up the mandal, and I knew, somehow I knew that Baba would be behind me when I turned around. And I thought to myself, when I turn around, all I want to see is Baba. And it just happened exactly that way. I cannot tell you. We came towards the first few rows of seats where the Westerners were seated. And we went a little further. And then I turned around, and there he was sitting on that stage. And I just stood there for I don't know how long as a 7-year-old child. And I just had this feeling of utter awe that I was actually in the presence of God. I was looking at God, and I cannot forget that feeling ever. So, and then afterwards, subsequently, of course, that afternoon we had the torrential downpour, and we all got wet being in the front of the stage. And Baba had directed all the Western women to come inside and get a change of clothes. And somehow we were ushered in too, part of our group. I think my mother and me, I was inside, I know. And Mani very sweetly comes to me and gives me one of her dresses. Now I'm all of not even 3 foot high at the time, being 7 years old. But she very sweetly put this dress of hers on me. And then of course it was way too long. So she tied a blue ribbon gathered it up and, you know, tied a blue ribbon. I remember that. And later on, after we had gone back home, Mani very sweetly sent me that same dress and the blue ribbon, which I still have in my collection. So very, very treasured collection. Yep. And then, of course, we were called in as the Karachi group in the afternoons after the darshan was over. This was after the 4 days. To the small side room where Baba would meet groups at a time. So the Karachi group was called in, and that was the first time I remember bowing down to him. And I first bowed down, put my head between both his feet, and then I kissed his right foot, and then I kissed his left foot. I remember that. And then I just wanted to stay there for a while, and then slowly, of course, got up, and it was just beautiful. Looked into his eyes. So, and then in '65, when I had his darshan again, I was almost 11 at the time. So that time when I bowed down to him and I stood up, he said to me, "You've grown so much. You've grown." I said, "Yes, Baba." So that was my memory of 62 and 65 darshan, but beautiful. Of course, met the women, Mandali separately, and Meera asking me to sing a song. And me being so, I was very shy as a child, extremely shy, like a wallflower. So when she suddenly asked me to sing, I was like, good gracious, what am I going to sing? So the only song that came to my mind, but I knew I had to because Mira was asking me to sing. So I thought, and I said, the last song we learned in school was Way Down Upon the Swanee River. So I sang that. It's the Negro spiritual,
Yeah.
Way down upon the Swanee River. That one.
Far
So,
away.
far, far away. Right. So that was my little song.
So Goer, I have one more question. May I? May I,
Yeah,
Jeff?
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to know what this expression means to you, since you spend your whole life, with Baba.
Yeah.
This expression is, don't get ahead of Baba. Don't get ahead of Baba. That's what I hear here, and I know Eric used to say that also. Don't get ahead of Baba. What does that mean to you in your life? Trying to obey Baba, trying to please him, try to do your best, all those things. What does that mean to you? How did you let Baba? How you let yourself don't get ahead of him?
How do I let myself?
I think what she means is that, I mean, in the context that Erich would say, you want to follow Baba and not get ahead of him and have him doing what you want.
Oh, what you want him to do, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right. So, I've never actually wanted him to do anything for me. I've just lived my life the way naturally as things have come. I've been more a follower I've always been more a follower than a leader. So for me, it comes naturally to accept whatever comes my way and take it as his will and live my life according to that. So for me, that has not been an issue at all. So I would never let myself get ahead of Baba. Never.
Yeah, she's not American.
Because sometimes for me is like, I never know, sometimes I don't know if I'm getting ahead of Baba or not,
Right.
Should I make this decision? Should I wait for him to give me a sign? Because not always I hear the sign from him, go ahead or do this, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So sometimes I kind of, it's puzzle for me. Does Baba want me to do that or not?
Yes.
Should I
yes.
go ahead and do it or wait for him? You know what I mean? So that's the question, because for you it's different. You'll live your whole life in a Baba family, around Baba and around Baba's orders and try to follow him.
Yeah.
But for me, it's different. I didn't meet Baba. I didn't know about Baba until I was an adult already.
Right.
So
right.
It's different. I think.
Yes.
I don't know.
You're right. You're right. We are all a result of our individual circumstances of life and so forth. So yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. But I think if you just have the attitude to be resigned to his will, then life happens a lot easier. It just flows a lot easier. At least that's been what my experience is. So yeah, if something puzzles you, then ask from the depths of your heart and he will answer you. Sometimes it could be something that you would recognize as a sign, something, but he will let you know in his own way. And if that happens to settle well with you, if it does not disturb you in any way, if it feels right, then that's your answer. Yeah.
Yeah, and in that case, that you're following Baba.
Yeah.
Following Baba's voice instead of your own voice. But it's hard because there's our voice and there's his voice.
Yes.
Sometimes they contradict each other. And it's hard to, and sometimes what seems like Baba's voice is our voice, and sometimes what is our voice is actually Baba's voice.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not just cut and dried. For me, I've experienced. You know, I just want to mention one thing. Josh, see, you know, this past week I went on a vacation and I went to a town that's a couple of hours away from here. And it was around lunchtime. I went into a restaurant, and lo and behold, while I'm having my lunch, in walks your uncle. I mean, the chances of, because he doesn't even he lives in Myrtle Beach also. And we wound up in the same restaurant out of probably 500 restaurants at the same lunchtime. So I told him that you know, I see you here on on the late night chats. He asked about you. One of those crazy things. Hey, Billy Byers, you got anything over there in
Yeah, Jeff. It's really good to see you. I was looking at an email recently, might have been from Angela, and I think it was the one about the fact that it was Meru's birthday. And Angela or whoever it was saying that she was saying either that Meru or Mera had written the song "Keep Me in the Circle."
Meru?
Meru.
Yeah.
Okay. And it made me think of the wonderful version that you and Kathy did.
Yeah.
And that when I hear that, it just brings both of you in. It's like you're both right there in the room with me. It's better. It's better than Zoom.
Is it? Can you access it? I mean, I wouldn't know how to do it, but
no, not right now.
Back in the '70s, we recorded that. The melody was by Heather Nadell. Wrote that. Yeah. Hey, so I had a funny subject that occurred to me. You might find it interesting. It's the subject of, you know, telling people about Baba. And let me just see. And I would just be interested in hearing what you folks might say. Just a second here. Whoops. Are you still there? Yikes.
Yeah, I'm here for now.
Okay, good. I've just got to make sure I don't kind of mess things up here. So, anyway, I thought I'd mention a few things of different ways that people tell about Baba. And so, you know, there's some religions that encourage you to go out and convert others to their religion. But Baba, really, his message has been quite different. And he kind of, I take it, he leaves it up to us to choose how and if we are prompted to convey who Baba is. So I was going to give some of the different ranges of how people do this. I mean, Baba said, you know, it is your job to bring my name to their ear, and it's my job to bring my name from their ear to their heart. We all kind of know that. So some of the ways that happen where you wind up talking about Baba, and I'd like to hear what some of you have to say, but like you're coming back on the plane from India, and you know, the person next to you was wondering, you know, what were you doing in India, and invariably you might, you know, start talking about Baba. It's kind of a natural way that it happens. And sometimes people, that was their contact. That was their whole beginning of their life with Baba. Usually not. But sometimes people, in their enthusiasm, when they first get into Baba, go around and telling everybody about Baba. And sometimes quite a few people are drawn to Baba that way. And Michael Childs is one of the guys that comes on here at night. And he's a little bit of a zany character. And there were a couple of guys that came to Myrtle Beach, and they had felt this prompting. They were seeking God, and they were prompted to come to Myrtle Beach to look for God. And so they were wandering around in North Myrtle Beach, and for some reason, they went up to this door and they knocked on the door, and the person, Michael Childs, answers the door, and he bows and he says, "Are you looking for God?" That's how he opens the door. And, you know, I mean, just he got the whim to do that, and sure enough. And of course, next time, one of these times, we're going to hear how Nashirwan Nalavala Baba kind of encouraged him to publish the Glow and spread his name through the Glow magazine. And of course, he asked Rick Chapman and Robert Dreyfus and Alan Cohen to go around and spread, to give Baba's message on drugs and tell people about Baba. They were very active in the 60s. Now, Bill LePage describes that when he went to Baba, to Merzad in 1967, Baba was talking about how there's so much enthusiasm in America, and these young guys are out there talking about Baba. What's happening in Australia? And Bill says, "Oh, really, there's not much happening at all in Australia." And Baba says, "Well, you know, how come there's nothing happening in Australia?" And Bill kind of ashamed says, "Baba, I just don't think I'm the man to do the job." And then Baba went like this, and he made a gesture of turning the key. So when Bill came back from his trip to India, he stepped off the plane, and the reporters were there. And he got one radio engagement after another and all that. And that's when all the young people in Australia started coming to Baba. It's 1967. Baba turned the key. And now someone must have put one of Baba's books in the New York Public Library. I'm just giving you some of these ways that people have. But someone put a book in the New York Public Library, and Eddie Luck went from Miami up to New York to kind of investigate what kind of career he should pursue. He wanted to do acting. So he went into the New York Public Library, and he found that section of the New York Public Library had to do with professions, what he thought were professions. So he went over in that section, and he took the first book off of the shelf, and he started flipping through it. And he liked the title. The title was "Listen, Humanity." I mean, of all the millions of books in the New York Public Library, he picks that one off the shelf. And that's what got he and Irwin into Baba, and they eventually, as you know, got to meet Baba. So one thing I used to do, you know how Baba says, get his name out. I would page in international airports. Sometimes I would page Meher Baba. So it would go over the whole, everything. And there was one guy named Ashen Stoddard who was, he was thinking, he was suffering so much in his marriage, he decided to leave his marriage. It was just too painful and everything. And he had gone to the Atlanta airport, and he was thinking of leaving Atlanta. And thinking about should he be doing this or not, and then over the PA system comes paging Mayor Baba. So he took that as a sign that Baba was going to be with him in his decision. Anyway, they're just some crazy things. But I'll just one last one. Well, Francis Brabazon said his recommendation was first get to know people and become friends with them, and then tell them about Baba. That was his advice. But the last thing I'll say is that Dr. Donkin, I was there in I think 1973 or something like that when when Donkin's relatives came from England to pick up his belongings and effects. Donkin had passed on in I think 1970, and they were coming to get the stuff, and they came to the trust compound there. They had no idea. They thought he was just working as a physician in India. They had no idea about Baba. They had no idea that their uncle was one of the intimate disciples of the Avatar. In other words, he didn't even tell them, you know. So that's the whole range of going out and broadcasting it or not saying anything, you know. So it gives you a whole range. But anybody have any stories along that line or any method that works for them? I'm just curious.
The method that I use, or sort of I end up talking about often, is I'll be telling people about that I've been to India, and then they naturally ask, "Oh, why did you go to India? Where did you go?" And I just say, "Oh yeah, I went to visit my gurus too, Mayor Baba," and then I just leave it at that, you know. And I'm of the thing of just saying the name and a little bit about it. I like to include that he's passed away so that they don't think I've got a living guru, and then that's it.
Yeah. Do they ever follow up on it, or pretty much that's the end?
Some people do. It's funny. It's funny. You see the people that sort of that, because there's almost like a bubble, you know, and most people are bounced back and they're like, oh wow, that's a wacky eccentric thing, but then some people sort of are very interested and are almost sort of drawn and want to know more. But you know, I've never had anyone become a Baba lover because I've talked about Baba. But yeah.
But that's kind of the beginning, because a lot of people when they eventually come to Baba, they trace back, you know, some guy on a train that mentioned Baba to me. He's on a train, as you can see the scenes going by.
Oh, and I did have a good one, actually. So this isn't a lady who came to Baba, but I imagine, like in my personal opinion, she might become a Baba lover next life. So she's my mother's cleaner, right? And often, you know, when I lived at my mother's when I was 18 or so, she would come around and still be cleaning while I'd be there doing my homework or whatever. And one time she came around and I was doing this painting of Baba, and it was sort of a blue painting. She said, wow, that's incredible. But then what was interesting is that after that time, I think maybe a week or two after, she had a dream, and she said, Josh, I had this incredible dream where I was coming to your house and you were selling me a painting and you gave me this painting, but it was of a tree that is that had all the seasons of the world happening all at once in the tree. And I mean, for me, I intuitively felt, wow, that's sort of very Baba-esque, because over here there's the popular shop Tree of Life, which is owned by Baba lovers. So it's this big franchise store that Baba lovers own. And yeah, and to me, it sounds like a very good way of describing Baba to people who don't who sort of don't have a gist of what Baba is. Yeah, and so yeah,
kind of like the Lord of the Master of all seasons.
Exactly. And in this dream, I gave her that painting, and she bought it from me. So that's why I think that, I don't know, maybe that's some spiritual stuff going on there.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's see.
Jeff, I have an interesting one.
Yeah.
You know, I used to have this Baba's picture of 1954 on a CD, right? I mean, there are things you could buy in Mehrabad when you go there. And I had a couple of them. and then I hung them in front of the car when I was driving around in New Jersey. And I tell you, you won't believe this. I got ticketed thrice for having that picture right in the front. I mean, it's hanging right in the front by the mirror, rear view mirror.
Yeah.
And I was told it's not the right thing to do. I was thinking that that picture will help those who go around to see, Baba's picture at least, and and help. Just do what I can. But the funny part is I had to remove it because the cops would just follow us and then give us a ticket for having something obstructing your view, and that's one of the things. But my normal approach would be, whenever people come home, they see Baba's picture obviously around in the house, and I just drop in his name, and we are followers of Meher Baba and things like that. And then if they want to know more, I keep telling them more. Otherwise, I'll just stop there. But with all my friends, that's what I would do. I just drop the name somewhere or other, yeah, saying that, oh look, Saturday mornings I'm busy with Meher Baba's program. Just the name.
Yeah.
Not that I would go any further, but that's where I stop. And but my brother, is a great follower of Baba. Baba gave me a kiss in 1962, and I can see it in him. He would bring lot of his friends to Baba, and then they really stuck to Baba. And I guess that's that's power, or whatever Baba gives you if you see him, and that kind of thing. And I can tell you very clearly, because of him, a bunch of people have come to Baba.
Through him.
Yeah, through him, my younger brother. And honestly, he has been my guru at home. And he is the one who gave me Listen Humanity and said, read this. And I read that, and then obviously we've been followers since childhood because my grandfather met Baba. But there is always a time when you come to Baba yourself, and he has been my little guru at home. And so I guess just dropping the name is what really works in my case.
Yeah.
Some did follow, some didn't. And I gave my bosses the books. I don't know what they did with them. I gave usually discourses, and one person I gave him nothing and everything. Things like that. Actually, I don't know. It's not nothing, everything. Something more.
Everything and the nothing. Everything.
Yeah, no, something more lighter than that. Everything and nothing.
Infinite intelligence? That sounds like a terrible thing to do.
Infinite intelligence will drive people away, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. But I think that's my way. Just giving books. But I like what Francis said. Become friends with them, and then just slowly drop the the name or the book or something like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see what's Rosalie.
Yeah, I had an interesting story of giving this "Don't Worry, Be Happy" card to Milton Berle. He's they call him the father of television. He's a very famous comedian. I never liked his comedy, but kind of put down. But anyway, he was at a fundraiser in California, and I went up to him and I said, "You see this card?" I said, "This card helped me to laugh when it was really hard for me to laugh." And he took it, and he really looked close. I didn't know. I thought maybe his vision wasn't good, but he just went like this, and he went, "Yeah." He says, "It is funny. Do you want me to keep it?" I said, "If you'd like to, sure." And he stuck it in his pocket. And I have to say, he had a funny walk. I never thought his comedy was funny, but he had a comic energy. So I was caretaking the Baba Center, the little Baba Center in West Los Angeles. 7 years later, he was giving a free workshop at a comedy club. So I went, it was free. And I was sitting by the stage and he saw me and he says, we've met before from the stage, you know.
Wow.
I said, yes, we have met. And he says, you were wearing the same dress 40 years ago. Then like he just put down. So anyway, he finished the presentation doing his shtick. And so I was just curious because I always carry, but this is like my last card right now, but that's the perfect card. And I waited, people were after his signature. And then I put my hand on his and he didn't take it off. And then when I got a chance, I held Baba's card up and I said, yes, we have met before. And he lost it. You know, he's like seen everything, burlesque, stand up, whatever. And he went, who is it? Who is it? Like diary had to know who it was because I never said the name. I says, that's Meher Baba. And he took the card and put it in his pocket.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. I took a picture with him. A friend took our picture, but he wouldn't take the card out. I says, can you hold the card? He says, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
anyway, it was like a year later, he was on the other side. So, but I could see he really, I hadn't even said the name, but he really looked at the card and was, you know, being in that atmosphere, the comedy, it's a rough, it's kind of a rough business, which he succeeded at. But boy, it cut through, you know, magical.
yeah. Remember what Baba said. Who is Mayor Baba? You know, who's that? And then Baba said, I'm the one who provokes you to ask that question.
Right.
Whenever someone says, who is that? I think, wow, that Baba in them is for the first time is asking about himself. It's kind of thrilling, but rarely, you know, they just, this Mayor Baba, oh yeah, and they kind of go on. But some women, well, who is that? Yeah.
Hey Joe.
Yeah.
So Jeff, I don't want to cut anybody's time, but I have a very beautiful story.
Yeah.
You know, my wife was, you probably heard this, she went to Montclair State here in New Jersey, and she took a speech class. And in that, she had to, you know, present something. And then for lack of, and she decided to talk about Meher Baba there. And she presented the whole thing, and at the end, she mentioned that he's maintained silence for 44 years. And then saying a bunch of things after, she said, well, I'm done. And the professor pipes in saying that, well, he would get an F in my class because that's a speech class.
Yeah.
And Baba maintained silence for 44 years and he would get an F in my class. And I think this is one of the other ways, if you have chances to do things like that, you can talk about Baba in such forums, and that's a beautiful approach. You know, you have a bunch of people listening to you very eagerly, and you just drop the name, and then I'm sure it just Baba does his work after. Yeah.
Jasima, what about have you had any occasions?
Yeah, I usually have a Baba photo at my workplace. So all the colleagues, I mean, most of them know that I am Baba lover. Some usually ask, like, I mean, seeing at the photo, is he your father? And who is he? So I basically start saying he's the avatar. And if they are asking for the question, I would say, what is avatar? I would start saying that he's like Rama Krishna, avatar of this age. So I mean, that I would tell them, and if there are any further, I would, I mean, direct to them, direct to some information on Baba. So it's like that. One of my colleagues, I mean, I told him about Baba. I think he's a Shirdi Sai Baba devotee. So it happened that, like, I mean, we were together for some year, I mean, some time in New Jersey, but later he moved to California on his another assignment, and I moved to Connecticut. So after, like, say 1 year or so, he called me and said, like, he was looking for a next assignment. At that time, in our, I mean, at my workplace, there was no vacancy at that time. So I said, if there is anything, I'll definitely call him. So it seems like he got a dream of Baba one day. And at that time, my manager also asked me, like, if there is any vacancy. I mean, if you have any friends, there is a vacancy. So it seems that I called him the next day when he got a dream, and saying that you have a vacancy here. So he came and joined.
Hey.
He respects Baba, but I don't think he's a completely accepting Baba as an avatar. Yeah. But that's the story.
Yeah. But you say he's a follower of Sai Baba.
Sai Baba.
Yeah. I think it's just a matter of time. Yeah. What, Goer, have you had much occasion to mention Baba to?
Yes, I have. I wear this ring. I don't know if you can see it. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. Can you see that?
Sure.
Okay, so the Baba ring is always on my hand, and this has always provoked a question from, I'll be shopping and I'll be at a counter and my hand goes on the counter and somebody says, "Oh, who's that? Is that your grandfather?" That's always the first question. I said, "Well, he's all of our grandfather, if you will." And then I go from there and say, "No, actually this is Meher Baba, and he is divinity personified, or he is God in human form," or whatever comes to my mind at that time. I will, depending on who the person is, and so forth. But of course, I have umpteen Baba pictures and books and so forth at home. And so when we moved to Florida about 13 years ago, so we've in a very small community, and we've made some very close friends here, and they all know about Baba, of course, now. The one big picture I have above our fireplace is a drawing, a rendering by an artist of the Ancient One, which is my absolute favorite picture of Baba. The Ancient One picture. So that
Looks
always
like Jesus. Is that where it looks like Jesus? Yeah.
Exactly. So, and you have to understand that people around here in the southern part of the United States are very devoted. They're either staunch Baptists, or they're very, very religion conscious. And they, I even signed up for a religious class that takes place once a week for a few weeks a year, because I got to know these friends quite well, and one of them, leads this religious class, and I just went for the history part of it, because when I went to school, I went to the Convent of Jesus and Mary in Karachi, and we were taught by nuns, and I grew up learning a lot about the Catholic, the Christian faith, and so forth. And I just wanted to know more from the historical point of view, so I attended that religious gathering for 1 or 2 sessions. But when they come, they obviously, that picture draws them in right away, and who is that? And so sometimes I will say, it is he who provokes the question in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I go from there. So yes, it's happened quite often. But they're very closed in that Jesus is the only reality, and there's, that's it. They're closed-minded, if you will, on the concept. So sometimes I don't know how to go further with them. But I tell them whatever my experience has been. This has been my truth. This has been my reality, and he is the latest incarnation of Jesus or of God on earth. So, and sometimes there's a look of, bewilderment, whatever. But then I leave it to Baba. It's his will. However they will take that. As long as you get the.
Yeah, I sometimes if people ask me, well, who is that? I'll say Meher Baba.
Yes.
But then I'll say, well, who does he say he is? And I'll say, I avoid who he is, the status, and say, well, I go to what he teaches. That divine love is the greatest thing. We are all have this inner divinity, so our whole purpose is to try to come in tune with the love and the divinity within us. So I kind of bypass who he is, because that can shut him down.
Yes.
And sometimes the idea that, wow, we are divine in essence, and we, that we have, and everybody has that. And so I kind of bypass who he is if I don't feel that it will go over very well.
Right. So it depends.
I was like, God in human form. Oh my God. I don't even believe in God, and now you're talking about God in human form.
Yes. Oh, my sweet brother was very, he, of course, I don't know if most of you know, but he passed at a very young age, and that's another story. But when he was in his late teens, and if anybody asked him who Baba was, he would say very openly and very frankly, Baba is God in human form. That's it. And the person, the shock on that person's face was, and he would revel in that. He would think, this is the way to do it. So,
but your dad was very direct. I remember.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm just checking. Oh, Al Grasso. What happened to Al Grasso? What about Diane and Terry? What have you? Have you had to kind of break the news to some people?
Yes. To a lot of people. As lesbians, we're used to coming out. So
yeah, that's right. You can. You kind of been through a few barriers already, huh?
Exactly, and also being honest and being our authentic self.
Anybody close knows, and
then
I share with my work people, but I share it with the people that I think can hear it or who ask questions.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I told myself. If anybody asks, like, why did you go to India, or why you do certain things, or like I say that I Zoom with my spirit community, and if people ask what my spirit community is, then they're asking. I tell them.
Yeah. Kind of a very natural way to lead into it. Yeah. I'll tell you a funny thing that someone came to me. I mean, they've been coming to the center for years, and they kind of wanted to ask my advice. Now, this woman, they were in their 50s, and the woman's mother was 84. Now, she had never told her mom was Catholic, Italian Catholic. She had never told her mom about that she was, following Meher Baba. She never told her mom that she'd gone to these trips to India. She would go away on vacation, didn't tell her when she was going to India. Not only that, she was Italian and she married a Jewish guy. She never even told her mom that she married a Jewish person. Now she's asking me, should I tell her now? You
Oh
know,
dear.
her mother's 84, and this is what occurred to me. I said, well, is it really going to draw your hearts closer, you know, by telling the so-called truth? Because if the truth separates her from her relationship with her mom, then would it be helpful to say that she's a follower of Baba? I mean, at an age of 84. So I kind of suggested, you know, your relationship's all right with your mom, and she's kind of getting up in age. Just go with the love, and I don't think you need to bring. I mean, this is the way I felt. You don't need to bring Baba into it, and you don't have to tell her that you married a Jewish boy. Um, just, that just might be too much at the end of her life. So there's an instance, you know, where for the sake of love, it might be good to withhold. I felt telling someone about Baba.
No, Diane and I, we've just been discussing this whole thing when we were first together. I wanted to bring Diane home to my family, and everybody knew but my mom, who wasn't that old, but she was very, very sick. And I just didn't feel the need. So we opened a business together, and and my mother knew that. And so we went home. I wanted to introduce her to my business partner. So all our friends said to us, this is never going to work. And
why?
And why is because, you know, you guys are like always touching and, you know, and so it's not going to work. And I said, sure, it's going to work. You know, we can be separate for a few days and just be loving to my mom and my family. We'll do fine. Anyway, my sister wanted a picture of all of us. So my brother-in-law took a picture of my ailing mother, my two nieces, my sister, me, and Diane. And Diane's hand is on my leg and my hand is on top of hers.
Uh-huh.
And so it got photographed, the fact
Yeah.
that we couldn't.
But tell about the burner.
So when I told my mother that this was before, I told her I was gay. Now, how did it come up? I told her, I think I'm gay. She said, don't think so much. And I put it on the back burner of your mind. And she said, my pilot light is out.
I have a question, and this is taking it kind of in a different direction. So there are a lot of things that happen that I hear about that Baba says that it's hard for my mind to understand. And one is about illusion. And I think about, for example, what's happening with people that we love throughout the world, specifically in India right now, where their personal lives are falling apart. They're sick, their family's sick, they lose people. You look out the window and the whole infrastructure is falling apart. And to be told that it's illusion, like how do you, I mean, do we just keep turning to Baba and just turning it over and just holding his tight onto his Dhamma and
and trust that there's
kicking
a big
and screaming?
picture.
See, whether you regard it as real or an illusion, your heart is going to prompt you to do what it wants. You know what I mean? In other words, you're going to have to follow your heart. I mean, I'll give you what happened to me back in my college days in New York City. This is just as I gotten into Baba. This is back in the 60s. And I had 3 days in which I saw everything as an illusion. And it was awful. It was awful. I mean, I saw it all as an illusion, and my heart would not flow out to it. I mean, why I couldn't flow out to an illusion. I couldn't, and I wandered around for days with my heart held up because, you know, I didn't want to invest in a lie, in a dream. But after 3 days, Baba convinced me that even though it's an illusion, it's always worthy of your most loving attention. You know, so whether it's an illusion or real, it's worth our loving attention for his sake, you know, so that he helped me out of that conundrum of this being an illusion. And you know, but like I say, so love, however you think of this, love is going to want, if you're open enough, love will make you do what it wants you to do in this world, whether you call it an illusion or whether you call it real. I don't know, does that make, I don't know, Diane, does that, so what I mean is that, you know, India's suffering over there, your heart is going to be affected. The fact that you call it an illusion doesn't, and you see people suffering and all that, your heart's not going to say, oh, well, forget about it, it's all an illusion. I'm not going to have any compassion for those people. It's just not going to work that way.
No, but it's kind of like when you know, the expression, the shoe drops, you know, or you have to turn another cheek. How many cheeks do I have? How many shoes do I have to drop off? And it's just bad news after bad news. How do you
Yeah.
turn to Baba with this? Is it to just keep having faith and understand that we don't know the big picture? And
Yeah, can I just jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
See, we in our limited capacity are not able to see what he sees. We can only see what we see in illusion, right? But there's always a good reason for why things happen the way they do. Just because we cannot see it in our limited capacity doesn't mean that the reason does not exist. And only he knows the reason why things happen the way they do. And everything happens by his will, correct? I mean, that's what we are, that's what he's told us to believe, that even a leaf does not fall without his will. So whatever happens, you then naturally have to accept that that is his will and just leave it to him. That's it. That's the only way to cope with it. That's the only way to move forward in your life.
Love and support the people who are involved.
And I mean, and that doesn't mean that you don't do anything, because your heart is gonna, your heart is going to move you to help out in some way if it happens right in your neighborhood. It's the beautiful thing. But everybody is moving toward their divine self in the middle of this whole drama. Everybody's going to get there eventually. And, you know, this is the winter of the world, but you can't take winter out of the seasons without upsetting the balance of nature.
Yeah.
This is the winter of the world, and everything dies back, and the trees lose their leaves and everything. But if you take winter out of the seasons, it'll throw everything off. I mean, I don't like it. I mean, if I was God, I wouldn't be creating. I'd say I would be into creator, destroy, preserver, but I wouldn't destroy as much stuff as Baba does. But this place would be a mess. I mean, there would be such a backlog of garbage if I were in charge.
Always has to be a balance. So that's
yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's getting.
Yeah. This has been wonderful.
Well, it's nice having you here, Goer. We sometimes we intend to stop, and then something else comes up, and then
Michael Childs just joined us. So
yeah, Michael, let's see if we can have Michael read us a poem if he appears.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but we can't see you.
Well, I guess it's I've been working all day in the sun, and I just got back. So I was trying to sell my furniture, and people said, "Oh, it's great," beautiful, but no sales.
Yeah.
So I was looking forward to this chat. So start video. Here we go. Let there be light, all right?
Michael, but before you begin, I told a story about, we were talking about how people hear about Baba and everything. And you may not remember this from the early 70s, but there were a couple of guys that came to Myrtle Beach, and they felt prompted that God was prompting them to look at in Myrtle Beach for God. And they were wandering around North Myrtle Beach. They knocked on your door.
Yes, I know that.
And he opens the door and says, "Are you looking for God?" And they were. That's the kind of guy that Michael Childs is, you know. He was born in New York and he's never recovered.
You have a sunburned face there, Michael? I'm trying to.
What's that?
Is your face sunburned?
I don't know. It doesn't feel sunburned. I try to stay out of the sun. My furniture was in the sun.
Yeah.
It got a sunburn.
You got a poem?
Sometimes it's the camera, you know. Anyway, what I want to read is my credo. I'm calling it my credo. I don't know if can you see my face? So, because I've switched the word. Okay. I am love. I was inspired by the love of a woman to break the cords around my heart. No longer was God in a picture or Jesus pinned on a cross. It was the mind-shattering moment of having God in my arms. Simultaneously, I experienced myself as love itself. If you had asked me, who are you really? I would have answered, I am love. I want to shout it from the housetops. I want to shout it in subways, in the most wretched slums, in war-torn neighborhoods and countries. I want to whisper it in your ear. I want to whisper it to my children. I want the flame that emblazons my heart to ignite every heart. I want I am love on everyone's lips, on t-shirts, on bumpers, billboards, TV, radio, everywhere. I seek the transformation of mankind. I am love. What does that mean? Egotism? Total unawareness of others or their feelings? Can two people say I am love in the same room and not cancel each other out? Whose love is the real love? Suppose a bubble floating on the surface of the ocean cries out, I am ocean. Is it being presumptuous? Look at the vastness of the ocean. How can one bubble be the entirety of the whole? It is comprised of the same stuff as the whole. Its parts have the same characteristics of the whole ocean. The only quality that it lacks is power. But billions of bubbles working in concert are a force second to none. Millions of people declaring themselves to be love is a force that will transform the world. Digging deep into the essence of who we really are, and who we really are is love. Infinite, undifferentiated, wise, selfless, and eternal. We discover ultimately, I am love. Digging that deep involves facing our fears. When I say I am love, it's not that I'm unafraid, it's that I bring my fears along without allowing them to stop me. I trust myself to endure, to survive, to love wholeheartedly. It's a trust forged in the fires of life and adversity. A choice I made 50 years ago to always hold on to the hand of truth, regardless of circumstances, holding on to my integrity with just my fingertips when the world fell apart around me. Without my conscience, I am just a body ricocheting in the cause and effect universe without purpose, like a ball in a pinball machine. My link with love would be broken. Therefore, when I say I am love, I take you, every person in mankind, and all living creatures and forms with me into my heart, where you nestle like birds in a tree. I do not know where this will lead, but I will follow it. I will not stop until all of humanity is touched by love and transformed. In spite of my abjurations to the contrary and my own failings, I swear it. I am love.
Wow. Whew. Beautiful. Yeah, Michael.
I can send you copies.
Yeah. No, he yeah.
Let me tell you a story. When I was in India in '74, I was having tea with Erich, along with the other 5 Westerners, and a young officer, army officer, came up from Ahmednagar, and he said, "Can I find peace with Meher Baba?" And Erich looked at me, and we hadn't spoken that much. And how he knew all this about me, I don't know. But he looked at me and said, "Michael, tell him." And I said, "You want peace? I'm on fire. The hell with peace. Let me burn to a crisp."
Yeah. So he went, he went and found another guru, maybe went to Sai Baba or something? No.
I don't know. My memory at that point ends. And I was just amazed at what I said.
Yeah. Ganesh
that-
got a haircut. Oh.
Huh?
I was just saying, Ganesh got a haircut there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Wow. Any Ganesh, you got anything on your plate?
No, I'm just enjoying what's happening here.
Yeah.
The lovely poem of Michael I just heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. Mayor Prasad, is he still around or what? Or Dinku? Or
I am, but I'm on the phone, Jeff. I'm just listening.
Okay. You
know,
got
on the talk about Baba's name, I noticed that people get curious about my first name sometimes. It's like what you were saying about Baba provoking them. Some people ask, "Oh, what kind of name is that?" And I tell them that I'm named after a person called Meher Baba, and that's about it. I also noticed that some people, my son is named Meherwan, one of my sons, and people get confused with Meherwan and they just say Meher. They somehow make that connection internally, but that's something that I noticed also.
So they just leave off the marijuana, they leave off the wan.
Yeah, and they just go with Meher.
Yeah.
So it's that's something that I found interesting also.
Yeah.
But when they see the picture either on my desk at work or in the car or at my home, they're always curious. Almost 70 to 80% of the people, they just don't let it go. They do ask the question, who is he?
Yeah.
Something provokes in them to ask that question. So obviously that's Baba asking, provoking them, but
yeah. No, that's the way I take it, that boy, Baba in them is asking the question. It's kind of it kind of gives me a thrill, even if it doesn't, if they don't pursue it anymore, but it comes out of them. Who is that? That who is that is different from a lot of who are you? Yeah. Well, what do you think, folks? Let's see what Dinku.
Hi, Jeff.
What do you think about all this stuff?
Very interesting. In fact, I wanted to share and then I got busy with something else.
Yeah.
I had this, an old friend of mine, she lives in Paris, and we used to, communicate on chat. And whenever she'd come here, she'd meet me and she would talk about Sai Baba and Mother Mary. And I would talk about Mer Baba. And then she really got interested and I would share the quotes and stuff with her. And it was 3 years ago, she was coming to Bombay and she said, I want to go to Mehrabad. So she said, I'd love to go there. And I arranged it and took her with me. And that was her start into, getting into Baba. And she's very much interested now.
Beautiful. And an old friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is
Sadly,
so exciting.
Sadly, just 2 days ago, she messaged me that she's got COVID and she's been hospitalized.
Oh my God, in Paris.
Yeah, in Paris.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I hope
But,
that.
Yeah, but I'm sure Baba's looking after her.
Yeah. No, it's Ganesh. We've been talking about. Goer shared a number of beautiful stories, and then we moved into, telling others about Baba, or how that all happens, and all different ways that it comes. It can be just like I would sometimes, page Mayor Baba at the international airport in London, or someplace.
That was
If there are any Baba lovers, they will, they'll come out of the woodwork.
Jeff, can I convey an experience and ask Goher a question?
Yeah.
Being down in Florida, let's just say for 20 years, down in Tampa Bay area, I think naturally, because I gravitate towards spiritual subjects, I would get into conversation unbeknownst to me with fundamentalist Christians. And we would talk about God. And for a while, I'd want to tell them I told them about Meher Baba. And oftentimes they were trying to convert me. And I had to kind of, we would get into like an argument or debate. And then I remember talking to Frank Davis about it a while ago. I said, why does this keep on happening? I don't understand it. All I'm trying to do is have conversations. And he says, Peter, you're in the Bible Belt.
That's
right. I said, what does that mean? Because I don't know. I just felt clueless about it. And he outlined where it went, and I didn't understand it, but I wasn't paying that much attention. But then as I was looking around and observing and asking people who and what are fundamentalist Christians, I don't understand. I talked to Mickey Kroger, and he would ask me, how are you meeting all these people? I said, I don't know. I'm just meeting them. We're having conversations, and they would see my pendant. They would ask questions. I would want to be open about it. And then they would tell me whatever they tell me about Jesus, that he's the only answer. And I'm wondering, after a while, I'd see these signs. I'd understand that when I'd say Jesus is the answer, they were fundamentalists. So therefore, I'd leave them alone, shut my mouth, and just try to do my own thing. And I would make a point whenever I felt an in to say his name or ask people, have they ever heard of Meher Baba? Just say it very casually, because from my experience, once I say his name, we're basically done. We're done, and then I move on, and that's sad, but so that's what I do. I'm wondering, Goher, if you've had the same experience with fundamentalist Christians,
Yes,
and how
absolutely.
you had dealt with it, because me, it was detachment. Maybe
Yes,
drop his name if I felt an in, and then go.
Yes. I have a few friends over here who are more open to hearing more about Baba, but by and large, what you said is absolutely the same reaction I get. People are very closed about their thinking, about their Jesus is it, there's nobody else but him kind of thing. So if you come across that, and as long as you've given them Baba's name, that his name has fallen on their ears, then you just leave it. Then the rest is between them and Baba. You and I cannot do anything more about it. So as long as you've given Baba's name and that has fallen on their ears, that's it. Then just leave it at that, because it's not their time. Their time has not arrived yet. So
Go ahead. Where are you?
I'm in a very small town in South Central Florida called Clewiston. It's, you know, where Lake Okeechobee, the big lake in Florida. No, well, it's a lake you can see from space. It's that big. But anyway, yeah, it's right in the center of Florida, and we're at the southern end of the lake. So we're about an hour and a half from both east and west coasts of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
In a very rural setting, a lot of lovely farms around, and
World, south of Disney World.
Oh, way south. Yeah, 2.5 hours south. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go here. You said Clewiston is the name of the town, or can you say that again?
Clewiston, Clewiston, Clewiston.
All right, I think I got most of that. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know where the chat thing is on my iPad. I can write it out for you, but I somehow I cannot get to the chat. I don't know where it is. I'm not on my main computer, so it's hard for me to. Does somebody know how I can get to the chat? Then I can write it out. Let's see.
Yasima knows.
I think it's the three buttons on the right-hand side. Tap those, unless that's for just an iPhone.
Oh,
there it says chat.
Thank you. Yes, got it. I'm a little techno ignorant over here, so okay. So here it is, Clewi.
Joshua, aren't you supposed to be studying?
Yes, I am. I am supposed to be studying.
Well, we're distracting you. This isn't good. We better close the shop here.
Yes, I think.
Yeah. Anybody have a last quote?
I have a little something.
Yeah.
Because I was a woodworker in Myrtle Beach for 4 years. That's where I started my professional career, thanks to Jane and Elizabeth. So I'm working away, and these Baptists would come up to me and say, you know, Jesus said he was the only one. Well, remember John? I said, John said in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was clothed in flesh. And you know that flesh comes and goes, but the Word is eternal. Well, it's the Word in a different form. And then they would still give me a hard time because they were not going to let go of their positions that easily. Not a question of being reasonable. And I said, well, look, Jesus said to love thy neighbor as thyself. And I'm your neighbor, right? So love me. and that would end the conversation. But it wasn't good for business, because I should have done what Elizabeth did. She'd get up, she'd go there with her roll down stockings and go to the Methodist church, I think it was.
Yeah.
Every Sunday. And she just blended in. And if I had joined the church, the Baptist church, I would have had a whole bunch of business. But no, I had to be honest, you know? And one of my last jobs was building a cross that some architects had designed, and it was almost 6 feet tall. And it was supposed to stick out from the wall from places where the nails went through Jesus's hands and feet and head. Well, of course, he wasn't nailed in the head, but it had to be 4 points. And I was going through a separation from my wife and children at the time. And I felt like I was building my own cross, and I was being crucified on it. And what was interesting is that the cross was hollow, and with a fluorescent light in it, it would show, it was illumined, and it would show up on the wall. And it's probably still hanging there. So I had my interactions with the Baptists and the Episcopalians. So all these interactions, just doing Baba's work, not even knowing what he's doing with me or anybody else, we're there, conversations are made, and something's happened, and you don't know why. I don't know why I opened the door and said, "Are you looking for God?" Just seemed to be a playful thing to do at the time.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'm done. You
Yeah.
can close the meeting. Yes.
Well, Lanita's going to read something, but you're saying this reminded me of a quote from William Blake. William Blake was a mystical poet, you might say, in England, and he had to kind of thread the needle with the Ecclesiastes, the religious people. So this was one of his lines which I liked. Jesus is the only God, and so am I, and so are you. Let them deal with that.
That got him into trouble.
Yeah, no, it didn't. He kind of threaded the theological needle there, But okay.
Carrie has something to say.
Before you
Yeah.
wanted to say go, it's been really nice getting to know you, and I look
Oh.
forward to next week. So
Yeah. Sure. Nice to know you all too. Thank you, and I hope to enlighten you somewhat next week. So I look forward.
Because you're going to get to hear what someone who was later to become one of Baba's Mandali, what kind of life he went through, and even getting to Baba. So Lanita, Lanita will read, and then we'll have just a few moments of silence.
Okay, there you go. Spread love everywhere you go. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. Mother Teresa.
Read that one again. It got distorted a little bit at the end.
Spread love everywhere you go. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. Mother Teresa.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Well, let's have a few moments of silence.
We can't. We just take his name.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, folks.
Jai Baba.
See
Jai
you
Baba.
Let's go.
Baba.
Baba ki jai.
Jai. Yeah. Janet, yeah. We didn't
Thank
see
you,
Jay.
Jeff.
Yeah. Wow. No, I say, Goer, we have enough to kind of keep ourselves afloat for the next 700 years.
Okay.
If we wring everybody out to the last drop.
That's right. That's right. Why not? Why not? Anyway.
Right.
Okay, well.
Bye.
Jai Baba. Good night.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Yep.
अवतार मेहर बाबा की
Ki
जय।
jai.
DJ.
Out of the shadows comes Sham.
Yes, thank you.
a voice in the wilderness.
Night, everyone.
Yeah.
Good night.
You guys.
Baba.
Yeah.
Good night.
Have a nice week. Yeah.
See you next Sunday.
Yeah. See you on the weekend.
Sure.